Mahoraga.
You can see it, Mahoraga! You can see my curse technique!
The Divine General is the ultimate weapon of the 10 Shadows technique. Throughout the story, Megumi Fushiguro, the only original user of the technique, would be shown trying to summon this beast time and time again. This was until Shibuya, when we finally got to see who Mahoraga was. To say the very least, we got exactly what we were expecting and even more. So in today's video, let's put this monster up against some of Jujutsu Kaisen's best. What's up guys, Restless Gamblrr here, and in today's video, we're going over everyone in JJK who can defeat the one and only Mahoraga. He's definitely a tough guy and a super bad matchup for a ton of people, but the fighters on my list are the complete opposite. Who they are? Well, you're gonna have to wait and see, right? And definitely subscribe if you want to see more content like this. You're not gonna regret it. In chapter 114 of the manga, Megumi, after watching Toji stab himself in the head, is caught off guard by Haruta. 3 chapters later, we see Megumi crawling away from him, but what he's saying is of note. Megumi is divulging his curse technique to Haruta without him even realizing it. This is when we enter a short flashback between Gojo and Megumi, where Gojo tells his student that there is an interesting reason the Gojo and Zenin clan are on bad terms. Hundreds of years ago, the heads of the households respectively killed each other in battle. The Gojo clan's head had the limitless technique and 6 eyes like Satoru, and the Zenin clan member had the 10 shadows technique like Megumi. Megumi assumes the way the Zenin clan member was able to do that was the same way he was using it. And then he goes on to note that Mahoraga is a Shikigami that not a single user of the 10 shadows has ever been able to exercise. Before even seeing Mahoraga, we get some scaling for him. What this statement means is that there was a 10 shadows user in the past who wasn't strong enough to exercise him, but his Mahoraga was strong enough to kill a limitless plus 6 size user. There's a reason I emphasize his Mahoraga, but that'll come into play later. When Megumi summons Mahoraga, he literally gets one shot by it instantly, so imagine the fight that happened 100 years ago. What probably happened is that the 10 shadows user summoned Mahoraga, got killed first because we know verbatim that the user didn't tame him, then the 6 size user got killed by Mahoraga as well, so they both died. We don't know if the 6 size user from back then was awakened, but it's pretty safe to say that the user wasn't, so we can compare them to pre-awakened Gojo, who at the time had blue and infinity at his disposal. Despite only having one lethal attack, he was still crazy strong. Toji didn't even know for sure if he could step to him without prep time. This feat is even crazier when you realize that maybe the user wasn't even relative to pre-awakened Gojo. We know that Kenjaku has lost to 2 6 size users in the past, and after the second time he killed the next one right at birth. Satoru is also the first 6 size user in 400 years to possess both these qualities. This might imply that there was a 6 size user who didn't have the limitless, but I think it's pretty obvious that the 6 size is a Gojo clan exclusive. What all this means is that the second 6 size user that Kenjaku lost to is the one that died to Mahoraga. So Kenjaku in that time period lost to probably a less experienced Gojo member, then that Gojo member went on to die to a Mahoraga from a Zenin clan member who couldn't tame him. Again, we'll get into why this is so important in a second. We've been yapping about these hypotheticals enough, so now let's get into what we actually see. Megumi summons Mahoraga and of course gets one shot, but before Mahoraga can kill Haruta, Sukuna saves him. Megumi is dead, but he's in a suspended state of death, so once Haruta is killed, he would die right after, just going back to what I said earlier. As Sukuna squares up with Mahoraga, he says he wants a little taste. So what he does during this battle isn't indicative of what 15-figure Sukuna going all out would do against him. Just letting y'all know. Sukuna blocks Mahoraga's first attack, but he notices there's positive curse energy coming from the blade, and he literally admits in his head that if he was a cursed spirit, he would have been a goner. There is literally no reason to lie in his head. If 15-finger Sukuna was a cursed spirit, he would have gotten one shot by that attack. It doesn't necessarily prove anything for Mahoraga's strength, but it does for his lethality against cursed spirits. Right before this, Sukuna hits Mahoraga with some flying slashes to which they injure him, but he regenerates from them after his adaptation begins. Again, reminder that Sukuna is trying to figure out what Mahoraga's deal is, so he wouldn't just send out his strongest slashes. Sukuna has actually let out stronger slashes, like against Ryu, where he had zero reason to play around. He actually says that he wanted to one-shot him, but Ryu was just so durable it didn't even go through him. This kind of just deletes any assumptions that Mahoraga, and specifically Megumi's, is some kind of durability monster. Not really. However, after being hit with Dismantle once and adapting a little, he begins to see his slashes, showing us that the adaptation even at the first hit becomes insane. This is why in the next chapter, the narrator literally tells us the only way to exercise Mahoraga is to slaughter him with a new attack before it can adapt. Cleave, previously stated to be Sukuna adjusting the strength of his slash to the durability and curse energy of the opponent, was something that fit the criteria for this, but again, Sukuna wasn't trying to one-shot Mahoraga, he wanted to see what he was all about. I also assume you already know this, but anime Mahoraga vs Sukuna differed completely from the manga version of the fight. There was only 2 attacks that Mahoraga landed on Sukuna, and both of them were things that Sukuna let hit him. The thing is though, you can see that Sukuna is taken aback by the strength of the second attack, because this time instead of positive energy, he uses curse energy, and after being hit by it he says not bad. In the anime, stuff was crazy. Mahoraga literally looked like a monster. The amount of things Sukuna was throwing at him was insane. We just see Mahoraga deal with it time and time again. Of course, the ending of the fight was the same in both the anime and the manga.
領域展開福間水し
Before Sukuna uses his domain expansion, he says that Mahoraga might have been able to beat him had Megumi summoned him at the beginning of the story. Well, we literally just got Sukuna verbatim stating that he would have gotten one shot if he was a pure spirit. Not might have, he said he would have. But for this statement there's doubt, and that could be for many reasons. First of all, the state of Sukuna there was crazy. He had no heart, he just used a domain expansion, and again, he wouldn't be out there trying to one-shot him. He would try to see what he can do. So yes, there might be room for Mahoraga to be able to pull out the dub, because the state Sukuna was in at that moment just wasn't fit for him to be testing him out. But this does make Mahoraga a 3-finger Sukuna victor, because if he wasn't in that state, there wouldn't be any speculation on being beat. That's where Mahoraga receives a massive downscale, because could you possibly guess who was literally speculated to be stronger than 3-finger Sukuna? Jogo. And this was speculation by Gojo, who can literally look at you and gauge your strength, which is basically what he did at that moment, but you get the point. This is also supported by the fact that Gege literally says Shibuya would have been too long had Jogo went up against 5-finger Sukuna instead of 15-finger Sukuna. So this statement does hold true to a certain extent. So with that being said, the only way Megumi's Mahoraga could edge out a win against a monster like 3-finger Sukuna is with the assumption he's not going all out and not even at his full power. The way Sukuna exercises this Mahoraga is through one-shotting him with Flame Arrow. Now finally I can get into why I keep emphasizing the user when I talk about Mahoraga's scaling. This is because in chapter 213, the chapter right after Sukuna takes over Megumi's body, he summons Nue. This Nue was so large it eclipsed the building Sukuna summoned him on, and the lightning it was sending down was insane. This means that Shikigami gets stronger depending on the user. Earlier during the exact same arc, we see Megumi compared to Nue. Holding onto his leg was enough for him. It's pretty obvious the difference in size here. And so with that being said, Megumi's Mahoraga will be leagues weaker than Sukuna's Mahoraga because of their insane gap in strength. Now, after Megumi summoned Mahoraga earlier in the series, we actually never see a non-adapted Mahoraga again, but Gojo says in his mind twice that he would one-shot him if he was ever shown. This obviously is not an anti-feat because Gojo is that guy. We actually see Gojo do exactly what he said he'd do, one-shotting him with Hollow Purple, but something to note is that once Mahoraga adapted to Infinity not once but twice, Gojo implies that Mahoraga deserves to be in the fight with him and Sukuna, opting to kill Agito as he's just not on their level. This version of Mahoraga actually blitzed Gojo with Rokan and Slash, and so that's the level he was on. Going back to why this was significant, we established that 3-finger Sukuna versus Mahoraga might be a close matchup depending on how you see it, but it's more likely that 3-finger Sukuna should cook him. A supposed 2-finger Sukuna might be where Mahoraga can stalemate, so that means the 10 Shadows user from before was most likely under 2-finger level. And this same guy's Mahoraga was able to kill the 6 Eyes user who defeated Kenjaku. If you're catching what I'm saying Kenjaku is a fucking bum. Yuta actually says that he and Rika can handle both Mahoraga and Nagito, so Mahoraga might be on that level. In the same breath, Kusakabe says Yorame can stall Yuta if they want to, which we see through Hikari being stalled. Hikari is someone who literally just said that Gojo insisted on him or Yuta alone pulling up to help him instead of just Yuta, implying relativity. Anyways, I think I yapped about Mahoraga a little bit too much. Megumi's Mahoraga is below 3 finger level and Sukuna's Mahoraga is basically unscalable, but we can assume that this Mahoraga is at the heavy hitter tier at the very least. So now let's get into the actual focus of the video. Who can take Mahoraga down if put into an actual battle setting? For this section, I'll go over a character's power compared to Megumi's Mahoraga, and if they can get past that, we'll see if they can get past Sukuna's Mahoraga. So with that being said, let's get into the first person on the list. The first character on the list is someone we actually saw directly exercise him. Ryomen Sukuna. Not really much to say here, he one-shotted Megumi's Mahoraga, and it's kind of funny because I don't think him exercising Mahoraga as an outsider actually tamed him. I think Sukuna just being strong enough tamed him. Earlier in the series, we saw Sukuna use Piercing Bull and Tranquil Deer without even doing the ritual. They just follow him because he's Sukuna. And so with that being said, it's pretty obvious that Sukuna would just one-shot his Mahoraga because he tamed it through that exact information. Next on the list is another character we see exercise Mahoraga, Gojo. Gojo, like I said earlier, stated twice that he would one-shot Sukuna's Mahoraga, and the second time he's about to use a reversal red on him. Once he actually one-shots him, it's with a hollow purple that puts Sukuna himself into critical condition. With that being said, a blue from Gojo would one-shot Megumi's Mahoraga, and we see that Gojo was able to one-shot Sukuna's Mahoraga. Next on the list is Yuta, and we just talked about this, but he believes he and Rika could handle not only Sukuna's Mahoraga, but Agito at the same time. He also knows how Mahoraga works. Everyone is watching the stream and is aware of his adaptation. Despite this, Yuta's confident in his ability to handle both the Shikigami, and this isn't for no reason. Yuta is in possession of multiple things to take down the Shikigami, and the most notable thing is Jacob's Ladder. In his domain, say if he uses it, his sure hit is Jacob's Ladder, and we've seen Jacob's Ladder literally delete a 10-shell Shikigami before. But clearly Yuta isn't even talking about that, he also has his blast that Rika herself can use on her own. These blasts were strong enough to stalemate Ryu's blast, which are stated to be as strong as just its output, which was stated to be higher than anyone in history. That one-shots Megumi's Mahoraga and Sukuna's as well. Yuta overall just has too many things for Mahoraga to adapt to, and you just need to stop him in place and blast him. Speaking of Ryu, I think he's got a chance against him. We know in character Ryu's the type to literally just let off granite blasts right off the bat, and I just claimed that Mahoraga gets one shot by the attack that stalemated Ryu's blast. Ryu is also super underrated. In a past video, I established that the heavy hitters didn't actually get faster during the time skip. I'll put the link in the description if you want to go check it out after this video. This is important because Ryu is literally the only guy in Sendai to be able to box for Yuta relatively, and so Ryu should be able to box with Mahoraga as well by extension. I think Ryu could one-shot Mahoraga before he adapts, but if he does, he's cooked. Next I have Yorozu, and this might be kind of stupid because we've seen Mahoraga adapt to liquid metal, but hypothetically, if Yorozu were to make a perfect spear and use domain expansion, Mahoraga is finished. There's literally nothing saving him from infinite pressure, and the reason he adapted the first time was because Sukuna was the one taking the burden of adapting, and he just passed it on to him. With that being said, I think this combo works on both Megumi's Mahoraga and Sukuna's. Heck, it should work on literally anyone. Next I have Yuki, and it's not for the reason you think. Yuki doesn't need a black hole to exercise Mahoraga because her basic attacks are already more than enough. This soccer ball kick is deleting Mahoraga instantly. There is literally no one in the verse who can tank this attack, and especially not Mahoraga. If not, she just punches or kicks him out of existence. And of course, if worse comes to worse, Yuki black holes him, taking herself out as well. Oh yeah, also her domain expansion might just kill him. Domain expansions are described to be the pinnacle of jujutsu sorcery, so it should scale higher than the black hole if you really think about it. Of course, it's just speculation because we literally have no idea what it would be, but just something to think about. Kenjaku is on the list. Alright, I know I shit on him earlier in the video, but to be fair, I do think him at his best in Geto's body should be able to do the job. Curse spirit manipulation is too versatile for Mahoraga. One of Kenjaku's curses literally had a domain expansion, another spawned a bunch of roaches and gave birth to another one, and another one had a technique to remove all obstacles. Of course, they all get one shot because of Mahoraga's blade, but the point is the versatility. Above all, he has Uzumaki, which will one shot Mahoraga no matter what, and his domain expansion can do the same if not worse. Kenjaku should be on the heavy hitter level in stats, as again I established they didn't really get any faster, so he should be able to box with Mahoraga. And while on the topic of Uzumaki, I have Geto. This is literally just because of Uzumaki, and also I have to hold up my agenda. Kenjaku equals Geto. Next I have Kashimo, but specifically in Mythic Beast Amber. Kashimo was cooking this sukuna, so he should be able to cook Mahoraga, and as for the potency of his attacks, he knows how Mahoraga's adaptation works, so he just attacking with all he's got. His lightning discharge is easily attainable after 3 hits. With Kashimo's speed, he'd be able to attain those 3 hits easily and one-shot Mahoraga. It will most likely go down just like it did against Panda. This is a big maybe though, because if he's not able to do this, Mahoraga would adapt to electricity, and from there Kashimo will be cooked because that's literally the only thing at his disposal. I think Kashimo cooks him though. Next I have Toji, and this is only because of Inverted Spear of Heaven. Toji knows about blue and red from the Gojo clan, so he'd obviously know about Mahoraga. The thing is, it's not even about turning Mahoraga off, which I think he could do. Assuming they just fight and the spear doesn't do that, it's likely that the spear would turn off his adaptation. I say this because Sukuna can adapt while using domain amplification, something literally stated to halt your use of your curse technique. So if that's the case, all Toji would have to do is turn off the curse technique and cook him just like he did against Gojo. Again, this is super contentious. I'd understand if this line of reasoning doesn't work for you. With that being said, Maki and Toji might be able to one-shot him with Soul Split Katana because Cleave can do the exact same thing. Cleave is an attack that just one-shots you, and we've seen both Maki and Toji do the exact same things to curse spirits. This is also contentious because Mahoraga might be able to just regenerate, but you guys can let me know in the comments what you think. This could definitely work against Megumi's Mahoraga, but it's way more debatable with Sukuna's. Now the next 3 on the list are definitely not stepping to Sukuna's Mahoraga, and it's not only because of the stats, but because 2 of these characters are completely countered. The 2 characters in question are Jogo and Mahito. They would get one shot if touched by Mahoraga, but the thing is, we talked about this a little earlier. Megumi's Mahoraga is below 3 finger level, and Jogo is at 3 finger level himself. Jogo's max meteor or domain expansion might just one-shot the Shikigami. If you want to say Sukuna was admitting he get damaged by max meteor here, then this argument is just way more solid. But again, 1 hit is done, Jogo's cooked. Mahito on the other hand is just because of how his curse technique works. If he uses his domain expansion, he might just be able to one-shot Mahoraga and turn him into a chicken nugget. If Mahoraga can adapt upon being turned into a chicken nugget, you guys can tell me in the comments. The 3rd character though is Mechamaru. He's only here because of the Toji case. When he fought against Mahito, he was able to get through Mahito's curse technique with simple domain, and so if you assume the same for Toji, and Mechamaru uses his attacks that Kenjaku states are on par with special grades, he might be able to take down Megumi's Mahoraga. Sukuna's Mahoraga just one-shots him though. His ultimate weapon got taken out by a punch from Mahito. And another character on the curse technique wave is Higuruma. Mahoraga would be getting the death sentence, as we know he kills every 10 Shadows user. If Higuruma was able to take away his adaptation curse technique, all Higuruma would have to do is hit him once and Mahoraga's done. I think he could do that to Megumi's Mahoraga, but Sukuna's is super contentious. Higuruma sadly just doesn't have the feats to prove he can step to the heavy hitters. And finally, I want to talk about Takuba, who's a very interesting case. You've seen him literally one-shot a special grade curse with a truck using his curse technique, so there's that, but it depends on Mahoraga's adaptation. When Takuba's curse technique is in use, it's constantly changing, hitting you with different things, and eventually it just defeats you. That's what was going on against Kenjaku, and Mahoraga isn't even a human, so we wouldn't care not to exercise him. With that said, Chuck-kun might just one-shot Mahoraga just because Takuba finds it funny. If not, Mahoraga might be able to adapt to not only the scenarios being thrown at him, but also the concept of reality manipulation in general, and just take Takuba down altogether. I think Takuba takes down Megumi's Mahoraga, but Sukuna's Mahoraga is way more contentious. But this is where we reach the end of the video. I don't think I missed anyone, but if I did, definitely let me know in the comments. Characters with big one-shot techniques like the majority of the ones I talked about today are definitely more favored when it comes to taking down Mahoraga. Characters like Hikari or Yuji aren't here because they don't have what it takes to just one-shot Mahoraga, even though they should be able to take him on. On the other hand, we have characters who turn off or take away curse techniques. They should have a chance under the assumption that adaptation is a curse technique. I didn't talk about Hana, but she would have been included in the list if we're talking about turning Mahoraga off as a win con. Anyways, what did you guys think? Let me know down in the comments. And I'll catch y'all in the next one.